establishing a cross-connection program to protect the city's water distribution system from contamination.
The mics work better when you're on. That comment's from Mayor Moss, who's watching this somewhere from a cabin in New Mexico.
Is this live now, Rose?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Okay, this is the cross-connection control program is a requirement for the TCEQ. On the first page, section 13.12.001 is purpose. That sums it up right there. It is the Texas Administration Code, section 290.44. That is the TCEQ 290 rules for the water. So it's a requirement under our TCEQ inspection. We didn't have the ordinance for the cross-connection program. It's the one that they require. That's what it's about. Any questions about what it is?
Do I have a motion?
What ordinance number is this?
788-19. No, that's the wrong ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Make a motion to approve ordinance 788-19 as read.
An ordinance amending Chapter 13 Utilities by adding a new article, 13.2, Cross-Connection Control, establishing a cross-connection program, providing a penalty for violations of this ordinance, an amount not to exceed $2,000, providing a cumulative repealer clause, providing for a severability clause, and providing an effective date. That is the caption.
Yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is to consider and act on a joint ordinance and ETJ release agreement with the City of Fort Worth.
We have Frank Crump from Half Associates to present the next item.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, Frank Crum with Half Associates. We're happy to be here tonight. We've been working with Fort Worth, Hudson Oaks, and Willow Park for quite a while now, putting a lot of pieces in place so we can get to where we are today. Passage of this ETJ adjustment is part of the progress we've made. This all started when the study was done of the big ranches around here, and it was determined that a different city limit boundary might be better suited to utility services. So Fort Worth asked that we get agreement with the property owners, and we've done that with the help of Derek Turner, with Jacobs Martin, and so that's on your agenda today. I'd be happy to answer any other questions on the project. We're pretty confident that Fort Worth is going to consider the wholesale water agreement at their meeting next week on January 29th. And that is another huge milestone in this project. Without that contract, we're going to look at other alternatives.
Any questions on the ETJ swap?
Should we provide any explanation on why?
So as Frank alluded to, there was a study commissioned by Fort Worth a number of years ago that would, and it all has to do with this ridge that's to the east of Willow Park. And there's part of the ridge that's in Fort Worth, and there was part of the ridge that was in Willow Park. It was not economically feasible for Willow Park to keep that ETJ. That's the benefit to us. The reason why is if they built homes or any sort of businesses over there, I'm putting in a lift station to serve maybe 5-6 houses.
There's that bridge right there.
Yes, and so that's not economically feasible for us to do. So what this is just simply as the crow flies, everything to the east of the ridge is Fort Worth, everything to the west of the ridge is Willow Park.
Okay. So there wouldn't be any real financial benefit to us to have it anyway. We need water more.
We need water more than yes.
Yeah. Okay. And is this the last step in the process for on our side?
Afraid not. Afraid not. We've had many steps to get to this point. The two cities have developed an interlocal agreement to do cost sharing and cover the operations of the system. Fort Worth had to acquire a site for an elevated storage tank, so they'd have enough pressure to serve this area as well as Walsh Ranch and Morningstar. They've done that. It took a long time to get to that point, but they acquired that property in November, and that got everything rolling. The next steps would include upon action on this ETJ item and Fort Worth taking action next week on the wholesale contract. Then we have to get the contract executed. Fort Worth develops it. We've provided all the exhibits that they need. Willow Park and Hudson Oaks execute the contract, and it goes back to Fort Worth. Two separate contracts. I don't want to get into all the details, but it's been well thought out. And then beyond that, we have to close the loan with
Water Development.
Water Development Board, Texas Water Development Board. So Willow Park has the funding to enter into the design contract. We are the design engineer along with Jacobs and Martin. It's critical that we get started in March, if not before, on the design. Easement access and things like that. There are several more steps to get to that point where water's flowing.
But the agreement with Fort Worth is, the 29th is probably the biggest milestone left. And then it's a matter of Hudson, of course, Fort Worth, it'll take them probably 2 to 3 weeks to develop a contract. They'll send it to us for adoption, Hudson Oaks for adoption. We'll send it back to Fort Worth for them to execute that. We were in discussion with Water Development Board this morning as far as funding goes. I believe that if we've all agreed to the contract and we're simply waiting on a signature from Fort Worth, I think the board would then approve us for funding. It's just a matter of is it going to be a March or an April funding start date? But once you're funded on day one, you can start the project. And the reason we're going through Water Development Board is we're probably saving about 1.5 to 1.25 on interest.
Sounds like a good plan.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Yes. I enthusiastically move that we accept City of Willow Park, City of Fort Worth joint ordinance and ETJ release agreement.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is an update on the water well replacement program. Mr. Turner, will help us there.
Okay. So we've had several projects going over the last few months, a lot of which you guys are aware of, or all of them you're aware of. But as far as the status, the completed projects that we have, we've drilled 2 replacement wells, well 14 and 15 we've talked about before. And the result of those 2 new wells, replacements versus the old wells, was an additional flow for the system of approximately 117,000 gallons per day. We've rehabbed 2 wells, well number 2 and well 16P, the Biloxi well at the well 16 site. Those 2 projects are completed, and the estimated additional flow that we've achieved from those 2 rehabs is about 63,000 gallons per day. Also, as you're aware, the tie-in to Weatherford, to the Weatherford water line on the northwest side of town, that's a 200,000 gallon per day supply. That's under emergency use only, but that's available on an ongoing basis by request to Weatherford. The system is in place to use that. We also have some projects underway currently. One is the Well 9 pump station, which is under construction right now. That will serve to be able to bring Well 9 online. Well 9 has been used on an emergency basis in the past, and it's rarely been used consistently, or on very rare occasion. But the capacity of that well, once it's put online, is approximately 115,000 gallons per day. That project should be done in about 4 months or so. time frame, maybe less. But the well will be usable at least that time. We also had out for bid right now. They just recently went out for bid 3 new wells, one adjacent to City Hall. One is a replacement well at Fox Hunt for the Trinity well there, and another one, a Trinity well at the well 9 well that's in place is a Biloxi well. So one of the wells that we've got out for bid is a Trinity well at that location. Those Trinity wells make quite a bit more water, generally speaking, and the estimated total flow from those 3 new wells will be 325,000 gallons per day. We hope to have those online by summer. In fact, we hope to have all of these online by summertime. The last summer's estimated well capacity was about 1.1 billion gallons per day. The current estimated as of today well capacity is about 1.3 MGD. That's with some of the completed projects that I mentioned in place. The projected capacity with all of the projects completed, including the wells that are out for bid, is about 1.73 million gallons per day. Last year's peak day was 1.25 million, which was just before the rationing. So that was a non-rationing peak. It was also not a middle of the summer peak, but it was not skewed by the rationing. So, and that's the highest we've seen in quite some time. So the current capacity is a little above that. The projected capacity, if everything falls into place, should be well in excess of what you need for the summer. Raymond has recently done some drawdown tests on the wells, and they look really good. Most of them the drawdowns were less than I expected. This is a slow time of year as far as demand on the aquifer, but they were really good, so we're hoping that carries through. Based on that projected peak and your current demand, I projected an additional customer capacity of about 500 meters. So just to kind of put that in perspective with what's going on in town. That is based on your historical demand and current demand situation. Is not based on regulatory demand requirements, but based on what you actually have used recently and in the past. That's roughly what the numbers are. So that's where we're at. We're hoping to get these wells under construction the next month or so, and hopefully, as I said, everything will be in place. Any questions?
Raymond, remind me, when did we go to once a day watering last summer? Was it in July?
July.
How many gallons of water did we sell in July? 33 million? So under once a week rationing, the reason I'm bringing this up is the old adage in city manager's business: if you want to sell more water, go on restrictions. When we went on restrictions, we actually sold more water than we did when we weren't on restrictions. So he mentioned that it might have been skewed a little bit. We were selling over 1 million gallons a day for the entire month of July.
Your June and July peaks is better than 95% of that overall. So you were close to that peak even in those 2 summers.
How many, I always call them spigots, how many new meters did we add last year?
For the calendar year
Roughly.
of 2018?
Yeah.
78?
Yeah.
78?
Yeah. I was going to say like 80, but I'll take your word for it. You got them in.
And these peak days, we're going to be changing that drought contingency to be in line with what everybody else is going to do, and so that's going to help us tremendously also.
Yeah, your peak day, what we were trying to do after we got through the summer, and just to clarify, there's some misinformation out there. We're not on Weatherford Water, and we haven't been on Weatherford Water for months, correct?
And by the way, the peaks that I gave you do not include
Yeah.
water. I set that aside.
Yeah, so that 1.7 does not include
That's
any.
that's groundwater.
Yeah, that doesn't include any sort of water from Weatherford. What we wanted to do, the best indicator we could have was what was our peak day, and could we match? How much over can we compensate for that? And so we feel as a staff we're going to be pretty good with about 1.7. My challenge to these guys was to get 1.8. They got as much blood out of the turnip as they can. But I feel comfortable going into the summer. You feel a lot better this year than you did last year? He knew that. I asked that question at every staff meeting, so he knew it was coming.
2018 was quite a ride. Questions for Derek? Thank you.
Derek, real quick, estimated cost on drilling the wells?
3 wells, $500,000.
$500,000. Okay.
Where are we pulling that money from?
We have a Techstar CD for designated Fort Water. So that's where.
That's the one we found that
Yep.
had been taken out in
Yes, that's-
1998 and somehow
that's
was
the-
lost. That's
Yes.
awesome. Good.
We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is a presentation by Aaron Farmer with Retail Coach.
All right, well, it's great to be here. I saw most of you about 2 weeks ago, I think, in Fort Worth at the ICSC conference. So I've been talking to Brian, wanted to kind of give you an update on our process and really what we're looking at here.
Hold on. I want to. So, have you met Aaron yet? So, Eric's brand new to the council.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So, we have secured the services of the retail coach to basically be an advocate for us in the retail community to bring businesses, specifically retail, to Willow Park. And we've been working with Aaron 6 months.
Yes.
He really helped us out in Fort Worth at the conference. Made some really good contacts. We've had actually some follow-ups from some of those guys that Aaron's going to get into. But I'm very encouraged by making this investment. I learned a lot in Fort Worth, and Aaron's going to probably, hopefully, elaborate on some of that.
So it's good to be here. I've been with the retail coach now for 12 years. Grew up in the Fort Worth area from Keller originally, so know this area pretty well and kind of what's going on in this region. Did want to point out Kyle Kofer is here with us also. Kyle's a project manager on this project with me, so we had a chance. We've been out here for a little bit looking around today. But real quick, just want to kind of give you an overview of the project, what we've been working on the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. One of the things that we wanted to really get an understanding for is who is that Willow Park consumer? Where are people coming from? Shop and eat at the existing places you have now, so the grocery store, Fuzzies, all of the other places we have here. But what's the potential? Where are we going to pull people from as we grow from a retail standpoint? So we ran what's called a cell phone analysis. Y'all probably remember talking about this in the beginning, but years ago we would have to rely on radials and drive time. How many people lived within 30 minutes of Willow Park? How many people lived within a 10-minute drive? Those models are a thing of the past. Retailers and restaurants, unless you're in a very urban area, they're not using those anymore. They're using tools like a cell phone. The way it works is, let's say you shop at the grocery store. You have your cell phone, and you open an app on your phone. You get a text message, email, or something like that. Well, your phone is pinging off of one of the cell phone providers' towers that are out there. We're able to track your home address based off of that. So don't worry, that's not being sold to anyone. It's just used to know where people are coming from and where they're shopping. So if I had a presentation pulled up in front of you, you'd see a map with blue dots on it. And basically the blue dots represent the households that shopped in Willow Park. We've been doing this analysis, working with you for about 6 months. We have a year's worth of data already on Willow Park. So going back about 12 months, we've got an understanding of who shops here, who's eating here. We even have an understanding of who's passing by on a daily basis. So if you shopped at the Berkshire's grocery store, for example, 30 times in the last year, we can tell how many times you shopped there. And it's based on your home address. So it's really powerful information. We had that with us at the conference in Fort Worth, and I'll tell you, it opened people's eyes to see what that opportunity is out here because realize I'm preaching to the choir here, but you're underserved when it comes to retail restaurants. You just can't or you don't buy everything here in the park. You're heading, into Fort Worth, you're heading into Weatherford for certain things, depending on which way you go there. So that's what we wanted to understand is who is the consumer. So based off of that analysis we ran, we were able to determine the retail trade area, so where you're pulling people from on a daily basis, is about 47,703 people. So much larger than the city limits. as a site selector, as a retailer, as a developer, that's what we need to know. That's what we want to know is what is our retail trade area. Most of the time when we talk to retailers and restaurants, they don't care what the city population is. They want to know what is that trade area draw. So 47,000 people that are shopping here, we say on a regular basis. So that doesn't mean they're coming every single day, but they might be coming on the weekend or a couple of times during the week. 47,000, that's a pretty significant trade area. Just some of the trades out of there that really stood out to me, the average household income of that area is tremendous. 135,680 is the average household income. Very affluent area as far as that goes. What that relates to, what that translates to with retailers is more disposable income, spending money at retail, restaurants, and you're starting to see some of those things come in with new retail and new restaurants come in. But think about it, when Walsh Ranch comes online, with the other developments we're working on that are happening in the area come online, that's going to be a lot of people. They're going to want to shop and eat close to home. So that's what we're really looking at is I think retail, and I know retail is going to come out here, it's already happening, but we can be smart about that. With the growth that's coming, being smart about where we look for that retail, the restaurants, and how that develops, that's really important. Median age is 41.3 within that trade area, so kind of a middle-aged, if you will, demographic there. What I noticed, though, your fastest growing sector is in the millennial. So the fastest growing sector that's moving out here is the millennials. So from a retailer's or developer standpoint, they like to see that because millennials are spending more money right now than any other category. They're going out to eat. For the first time, us as Americans, we actually spent more going out to eat than we did at the grocery store. So these are things that retailers, developers pay attention to. But the trade area population, which is growing, be over 50,000 here pretty soon. To the higher incomes there and the population, kind of the age that we're looking at there, those numbers look good. So we're taking this information. Really, the ICSC conference that we were at in Fort Worth, that's the International Council of Shopping Centers conference. That was really Willow Park's one of your first times to kind of get out there in front of the brokers, the retailers, and developers. I know there's been some economic development that happened, but a lot of the retailers and restaurants that we talk to, many of them don't know where Willow Park is. So it's an awareness campaign, if you will. And once we get them interested, once we get these numbers in front of them, it's about finding them a site and getting those things to happen. So I wanted to point that out because going forward, we really want to focus on the retail trade area. We also ran what's called a gap analysis or a leakage analysis. And basically what that tells us is how much money is leaving Willow Park on a yearly basis and being spent outside of this market. Millions of dollars are being spent outside of this market on a regular basis. Just as a good example, general merchandise stores. So that would be your Targets of the world, your Walmarts, just anything that kind of fits into that general merchandise category. There's about $118 million that leaves this community on a yearly basis and is spent outside of this community. So just that number alone is tremendous. Another one that stood out to me was full service restaurants. So you've got some full service restaurants here, but not many right now. $57 million leaves Willow Park on a yearly basis and is spent at casual sit down restaurants. So that's anything with a waiter, anything like that, and even fast food. You have quite a bit of leakage in that category as well. So I wanted to point that out. I won't go through the entire leakage analysis with you real quick, but there are roughly 75 categories that we focus on there. So any type of retail is going to fit into one of these categories. And I'll tell you the way to look at this, don't look at leakage as necessarily a negative thing, but look at it as opportunity, because when we go to retailers and restaurants, this is the kind of information they want to see. They want to know that there is opportunity where somebody can come in and be successful. So once and I've just kind of hit on the high points of this, but we've run a number of different reports. So demographics, the gap analysis, psychographic reports, basically what a retailer or restaurant wants to see to decide whether or not to locate here. So once we had run those reports, we've started focusing on retailer and developer recruitment. So if you know anything about what's happening in this market, really Texas as a whole, a lot of the new retail that's happening here is developer driven. So you look out at maybe Alliance Town Center, kind of in the northern Fort Worth, Fort Worth area that way. It's a developer that's come in, or multiple developers that have come in and bought 50 acres or 20 acres or something like that. So we're focusing on developer recruitment. At the same time, we're focusing on retailer and restaurant recruitment. You know, developers need retailers and restaurants, and a lot of times retailers and restaurants need a developer to make it happen. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. So we're going after both of them, if that makes sense. We had some really good meetings, and Brian hit on it at the Fort Worth conference. And you know, for the first time, I told Brian, I said, go out there and just kind of get your feet wet, just kind of see what it's about. You know, let's not expect to make any deals out there this time, but let's go out there just trying to get our feet wet. And we've since then we've followed up with a couple of developers that we met with out there. In fact, one of them had drove through here last week, taking a look at a couple of the sites we had talked about. We've had some good follow-ups with some retailers and restaurants, so that'll continue as we go along. But I was encouraged by that. So from the recruitment process standpoint, what we do is we send out emails with information they want to see. We make phone calls, and then we set up meetings. That's the goal going forward. Is can we have somebody in here in City Hall? Can we have somebody driving around with our team and Brian looking at potential sites here in Willow Park? Anytime we can get them here, it's a lot easier to sell. So that's what that recruitment process looks like. What we also do is we develop, and this is just some covers of these, but we develop feasibility packages. You'll notice a retailer's logo that's on there. Everything that we do, we customize with the retailer's logo. We want to show them that Willow Park has taken the extra effort to customize a package for them. We call them feasibility packages, but basically they're marketing packages that we use to convince a retailer or restaurant that they can't afford not to locate in Willow Park. So these are going over really well. We're including possible sites in the back of these marketing packages as well, so that we're not just saying, hey, come to Willow Park. We're saying, hey, come to Willow Park, and here are the 3 sites that you could actually fit into or make work. So we're kind of doing the work of the brokers, the retailers, site selectors for them, trying to speed up that process. So what we've also done, and I'll kind of wrap up here and see if there are any questions, we've developed our community dashboard. So basically a retail website or a retail dashboard, so that if somebody's interested or looking in the region, they can go directly to the city's website, and we also have it on our website, where we've got the reports available to download. We've got an interactive mapping application, which is really neat, where instead of just saying there's multiple reports here, you can actually pull up the trade area for Willow Park. If they're interested in a 2-acre pad site, they can pull up the 2-acre pad sites available in Willow Park. They can run their own reports on there. So I don't think it's on the city website yet, but we're implementing that over the next few weeks. Basically, our computer guys are going to talk to your computer guys, and we're going to get that all figured out. But really neat tool. What we're trying to do is we're first off trying to get Willow Park out there with the retailers, developers, and brokers, especially with the growth that's coming out here. But then trying to make it easy. When they're ready to make a decision, here's the information they need, and just really trying to stay proactive. So we attended the ICSC conference 2 weeks ago. We're going to be attending the ICSC Recon conference, which is in May, in May of this year. That's the largest retail real estate conference in the world. Happens every year. As a company, we've been going for about 20 years. This will be my 13th or 14th year. I'm kind of got lost on the years there. But we'll be representing Willow Park there. And then there's another event called Retail Live. And that happens in Austin. And that's in August. So August of this year in Austin, I would recommend we're going to be out there representing you, but I would like to see, a couple of you out there as well. What I like about that is that conference in Austin, the retailers, the restaurants, the developers that are there, they're doing deals in Texas. So that's important to be in front of them. A lot of those emerging concepts that are new to the market and those sort of things will be there. So those are the 2 kind of next conferences that are coming up. The ICSC Recon conference I mentioned, that is in Las Vegas in May. There will be people there from every state. I don't know if we're there yet from a Willow Park standpoint, having representation out there. We will be out there representing you, but I think that Austin conference is really important, just like this Fort Worth one we attended a couple weeks ago. So I wanted to point that out because I'm a big fan. I think we'll get a lot out of these trade shows and these conferences. As y'all notice, it's not going out there and having fun. It's out there talking to people about Willow Park. It's talking to them about, hey, this is what we have. This is what's available. This is what's coming. And, really important. So just to kind of wrap up here, we're going to continue this ICSC follow-up. I mentioned we've got the developer that was out here. I think he was out here yesterday or last week. I just got off the phone with him.
One from West Texas?
Yes. Yeah. So he was out, I think it was last week. He was out here, drove through, looked at a couple of the sites we had talked about. So we're going to stay in touch with them and some of the other contacts that we made there. We're going to continue to recruitment. So we've already had 2 or 3 retailers and restaurants that Brian knows about that are interested in coming here. So we're going to continue to work through the process with them, work on site visits, and then we're going to attend those conferences, and we're going to keep you updated throughout this process. I talk to Brian probably weekly, at least every 2 weeks, with an update on this is what we're doing, this is what's going on. So we'll keep you up to speed on what's going on there, but I would say stay aggressive. We're 6 months in. It's not this happens tomorrow. This is, when you're looking at retail, you've got to look at it from kind of a long-term standpoint. So that's the way we're looking at this is, we're going to have some success pretty quick here. You've already got, a place coming in pretty quick. But a lot of these stores are planning for 2020. They're planning for 2021. So staying in front of that and just being smart with development going forward is where I think we can really help Willow Park. So in a nutshell, I know some of you got to get to Austin, so I wanted to get through that pretty quick. But in a nutshell, that's where we are. I'm excited about it. We had done some work with Willow Park several years ago from a data standpoint, trying to understand the trade area. It was before we had the cell phone analysis and those sort of things. So it's really always been on my radar, but with the development you're happening in the community and in the surrounding communities, you're going to see that retail and that development come in, pretty quick. And it's important to just kind of be smart with that development and be able to work hand in hand with the retailers.
Thank you.
So is this on a website now that we can access and take a look at, or is how do you get
That,
that?
that's good. That will probably give me 2 weeks at least, or the minimum or maximum.
Sure.
We'll have that. If nothing else, I'll have a link to his website on ours.
And we do have the reports that are ready for y'all to review. So
Okay.
Brian's going to link to those. That but we want to get it out there to the public, really the developers and retailers, so it's easily accessible for them. So at least 2 weeks, but it'll be on our website actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but as far as getting it on the city website, that'll just take just a little bit of time to get both the systems running together.
Okay. And so your analysis, just in the 2 categories, it came to over 180, 190 million.
Right. Yeah.
In if I got my numbers right here, 160, 170 million.
Yeah.
In lost opportunity just in those 2 categories. What's the gross number look like if you look across all of them?
We've looked across all of them. I don't have that total number here, but it's significant. I will say that it's
Exceeds 200, 250 million or something?
it's probably closer to
400 million.
Yeah. If you're looking at all the categories, because that takes into account, everything from florists to pharmacies to gasoline stations to everything that would fit into that category. So it's pretty significant. So, and I'll get you a total number for that. It's in one of the reports. I'll send it over to Brian so we can get that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like having this data because it not only gives the developers, an idea of what's here, but it also shows us what we're worth.
Sure.
And then, because it's not all willy-nilly. This is something that I really pushed for because commercial is coming.
Yep.
And, I've learned so much about businesses and laws that protect businesses, and you're pretty much subject to whatever comes in unless you go out and do this type of thing. Because there are more laws that protect a pawn shop than there are, a regular retailer. And so I'm very excited about this because it's about time we know what we're worth.
Well, it's kind of what I was talking about, the importance of being really strategic.
Yeah, it's the only way to control it.
Because there's only so much land in Willow Park for retail and development. So being really strategic in the way you approach that.
And it puts us in the driver's seat, so we're not just stacking a whole bunch of random stuff in here. And so, because when you mention developers, people automatically think a whole bunch of homes stacked up on top of each other.
Sure.
But we're talking about developers of like shopping centers.
We are. There's all different types of development. Everything from shopping centers to mixed use developments to those sort of things. And you're already starting to see them come out here, especially. I know I brought it up already, but Walsh Ranch is going to have a huge impact on this community from a retail and development standpoint.
And that really hasn't been factored in.
Not even yet.
we tried to factor it in, but
But-
I will tell you, it's almost an unknown because of just, it's gonna have such a huge impact. But, you know, all types of development we're looking at, but again, it's about being strategic and really smart about, working with these developers to see those things.
I think the biggest takeaway I had from the conference was a couple of things. One, and Aaron's dead on, the one question, and I think you got asked this, I know we got asked probably every 10 minutes, where's Willow Park? Where's Willow Park? And I said, well, we're the best kept secret in Parker County. And that kind of opened the door. The other one was they were stunned that we were twice the size of Aledo, because they assimilate Aledo with the ISD and maybe not necessarily the city. So those were the two questions that I got asked the most, and it was eye-opening for me as my first one to go to. And certainly Willow Park, by the afternoon of the first day, we had a lot of people coming by and saying, I've heard about you, what are you, and he's dead on. We're looking at a 2020 expansion or a 2021 expansion, and I need this much land, I need this much, where's your utilities? So my recommendation to council, and there's no action taken tonight, but is to keep being aggressive. I don't think we're ready to go to a Las Vegas show. I don't think we're there, but I think the Austin Live event is something that we can do. But I was very encouraged by the one sit-down meeting with the developer was very encouraging. And so there were some retailers that really, my wife said yes.
On the Walsh Ranch projections, the ISD has offered they've done some extensive projections on population and whatnot, and they've also offered that data to us. That may be something
that'd be
that Brian
helpful to look
could
at
mention.
that.
Yeah.
When you look at Willow Park, maybe from an aerial view
Mhm.
and the surrounding, that story's not told. So we're
Yeah.
gonna work with some maps, with some showing where that new housing is.
And I think that's what the takeaway from the conference is. It kind of tells you what you need to work on when you
Yeah.
go out and sell it.
Any other questions for Aaron?
No, thank you.
Thank you so
all
much.
See you.
Thank you.
All right, there are no more items on our agenda for the night. Do I have any motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn?
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?